There is something happening right now and you are not seeing it. Not because you are careless, not because you are ignorant, but because it was designed so that you wouldn't see it. It has been like this for centuries. And while you live your life, while you feel that fatigue that never goes away, that nameless anxiety, that constant feeling that something is off, there are entities feeding on exactly that. On you, on what you feel, on what you fear. The oldest texts known to humanity, the ones that were hidden, rewritten, or directly destroyed by those who had the power to do so, speak about them. They call them Archons, energetic parasites, formless entities that cannot create, only consume, and they have been doing it for millennia. But there is something they did not tell you. There is a technology. It is not modern technology. It is not an algorithm or a drug. It is a metal that medieval alchemists used in secret, that appears in the hermetic papyri of Egypt, nor that shamans from cultures separated by entire oceans always placed on the same side of the body, the left side. And what that metal does is not block you or protect you like a shield. What it does is something far more sophisticated, far more disturbing, and far more effective. It makes you invisible to them. Stay, because what you are going to hear today, you will not find anywhere else. Before entering into the metal, you need to understand what we are facing. Because if you do not understand the nature of the problem, you will never understand why the solution works. Archons are not fictional creatures or poetic symbolisms from ancient cultures. They are described in Gnostic texts with a precision that becomes unsettling when you compare it with what modern quantum physics is beginning to suggest about the nature of consciousness and energy. They are entities that exist at a frequency the human eye cannot register, but they do not need a body because they operate on the energetic plane, in the electromagnetic field that surrounds every human being, and that conventional science calls the auric field or bioelectric field. And they feed on only one thing: low-frequency emotions, fear, rage, guilt, shame, hatred, chronic sadness. Every time you enter one of those states, you emit a signal that for them is like a beacon in the middle of the darkness. And when they detect it, they approach. And when they approach, the cycle feeds itself. Because their presence amplifies exactly the emotional state that attracted them. Fear becomes more fear, anxiety becomes more anxiety. And you, in the middle of all that, believe you are simply having a bad day, or a bad week, or a bad life. This is what no one explains to you about chronic fatigue. I am not referring to the fatigue of having worked a lot. I am referring to that deep exhaustion that appears for no apparent reason. The one in which you wake up after 8 hours of sleep and feel that you have not rested at all. The one in which, at 3 in the afternoon, your body weighs twice as much as normal, and your mind is wrapped in a fog you cannot dissipate. Conventional medicine has an endless list of possible causes: stress, vitamin deficiencies, hypothyroidism, depression, chronic fatigue syndrome. And it may be that some of those causes are present. But there is a layer that conventional medicine does not touch. Not because it doesn't exist, but because it doesn't yet have the instruments to measure it. Your energetic field is being drained. You are emitting energy constantly toward something that gives you nothing back. And that something is not a toxic person. Although toxic people can act as bridges or amplifiers of this process, that something operates at a more fundamental level, at the level where your body is not only matter, but also field, frequency, information. And when that field is intervened, the physical body registers the impact in ways we recognize as symptoms, but whose real cause remains hidden. The first level of attack is exactly that: superficial draining. Fatigue without origin. The sensation of emptiness. The loss of motivation that appears out of nowhere. If you are feeling it right now, it is not a coincidence that you are watching this video. But there is a second level, and this one is even more disturbing. But Hermetic texts called it coupling, and it is the process by which the thoughts you believe are yours stop being yours. It sounds extreme, I know. But listen, have you ever had a negative thought so repetitive, so insistent, so irrational, that at some point you wondered where it comes from? Have you ever felt that there is a voice inside you that does not sound like you, that criticizes, that sabotages, that destroys every attempt to move forward with almost surgical precision? Siberian shamans had a word for that. Alexandrian Hermeticists had a detailed explanation of that phenomenon. And what they described, with different vocabularies and across centuries of separation, is basically the same. There are thoughts that are implanted, not metaphorically, literally. Entities that operate in the energetic field can influence the flow of thought of a human being whose field is sufficiently weakened or open. They do not control your mind. That is important to understand. They are not masters, they are parasites. They do not dominate you, they whisper to you. And the problem is that when you spend enough time listening to those whispers, you begin to build your identity around them. You begin to believe that the voice telling you that you cannot, that you are not worthy, that you are alone, that the world is dangerous, is you. And that is where the damage becomes deep, because you are no longer fighting something external, but you are fighting what you believe you are. And then there is the third level: transmission. This is the most visible of the three because you experience it through other people. You surely know someone who enters a room and the atmosphere changes. They do nothing special. They say nothing special. But suddenly there is a heaviness in the air that was not there before. Or someone you talk to for 5 minutes and you end the conversation feeling drained, as if something had been extracted from you. It is not that that person is necessarily malicious. In most cases, they are not. What happens is that there are people who, due to their own level of energetic drainage, function like antennas that amplify and redistribute our archontic presence. They are people who chronically vibrate at the lowest frequencies: constant resentment, permanent complaining, victimhood as identity. And when you enter their field, that frequency seeks to level with yours. The quantum physics has a name for that process: entanglement. What ancient texts called transmission, modern science is beginning to describe as resonance of biological electromagnetic fields. The language changes. The phenomenon is the same. And if you do not have active protection over your own field, that transmission occurs without you realizing it. You leave the conversation thinking you are simply tired, without understanding that you have just been emptied. Now we go to the core of all this: copper. Pure copper is one of the best electrical conductors that exist in nature. Any electrician, any engineer knows that. But what conventional science does not study, and what alchemical texts have been documenting for centuries, is its specific behavior in interaction with the human electromagnetic field. When pure copper enters direct contact with the skin, it does not simply conduct the electricity of the body, it interacts with it. It creates a modulation in the bioelectric field that surrounds the organism, a kind of controlled interference, a subtle distortion. And that distortion is exactly what you need, because Archons, like any entity that operates by locating signals, do not look for a distorted field. They look for clear, predictable, emotionally reactive fields. A field with that copper modulation active does not disappear. It is still there. It is still yours. It is still emitting. But it emits with an altered frequency that makes them pass by, as if suddenly you became background static. White noise, something their location systems do not know how to interpret or use. You are not blocked, you are invisibilized. And that difference is crucial because a solid shield also blocks your own energy outward. Invisibility does not. Your energy flows, your field remains active and alive, but the signal you emit toward archontic frequencies becomes illegible to them. What medieval alchemists understood this. That is why in their writings, copper repeatedly appears associated with Venus, with the feminine field, with reception, and the subtle shield. It was not decorative symbolism. It was technical instruction written in the only language that could survive the censorship of their time. And here comes the question you are probably asking yourself. Why the left side? Why do all traditions, without exception, place the protective metal on the left side of the body? Shamans from the Amazon, Hermeticists from Alexandria, European alchemists, Vedic traditions of India, all of them, the left side. The answer has several layers. The first is anatomical. The left side of the body is directly connected to the right hemisphere of the brain, the hemisphere of intuition, non-linear perception, expanded consciousness. But beyond neuroanatomy, all these traditions shared an understanding of the human body as a system of polarities. The right side emits. The left side receives. The right side projects your energy toward the world. The left side is the portal of entry for energies from the environment. And if the main point of entry of external influences, including archontic influences, is the left side, then the left side is exactly where you need to place the modulation. Not on the neck, not on the chest, not on the right hand. On the left wrist or the left forearm, where contact with the skin is direct and constant, where copper can interact without interruptions with the bioelectric field at the point of greatest vulnerability of entry. This is not superstition. It is a technical reading of the human body that cultures separated by thousands of kilometers and thousands of years reached independently to the same conclusion. That is not coincidence. That is knowledge. But copper alone is not enough. And this is where most people who try this fail. They buy the metal, they put it on, they expect results. And when the results are not immediate or not what they expected, they conclude that everything is a lie. The mistake is treating copper as a passive object, as if it were a medicine that works simply because you take it. It does not work like that. Copper is the conductor. But the signal that travels through that conductor is placed by you. And for that signal to be effective, you need to activate the metal. But you need to do something that modern culture has almost completely forgotten, but that every spiritual tradition on the planet considered as fundamental as breathing. A ritual of intention. I am not asking you to believe anything that contradicts your rationality. I am asking something much simpler. I am asking you to recognize what neuroscience has already demonstrated. That intention modifies electromagnetic fields. That visualization activates the same neural pathways as real action. that the mental state with which you interact with any object or situation partly determines the result of that interaction. With that framework, what I am going to describe now is not magic. It is consciousness engineering. The activation ritual is done at night. Always at night, preferably just before sleeping, because during sleep your conscious defensive field drops to its minimum level, and you are more vulnerable to archontic activity. It is the moment when you most need them active. The process lasts 30 seconds. You do not need candles, you do not need incense, you do not need any additional element, only pure copper, which must be copper without alloys, without baths of other metals, without coatings. Copper. Pure. You take it with your right hand. You hold it for a few moments, feeling the weight and the temperature of the metal in your palm. And then you say, out loud or silently, the following. You can use these words or your own. What matters is the emotional charge behind them. This metal is my shield. My field is mine. Nothing that vibrates in fear can find me. Nothing that feeds on pain can see me. I am here, and I am free. And while you say that, you visualize. Not vaguely, but with precision. You visualize a golden light emanating from the copper, rising through your left arm, expanding through your chest, wrapping your entire body in a layer of luminosity that vibrates, that pulses, that is alive. You do not visualize it as something external to you. You visualize it as something you already are, as if you were remembering something that had always been there and that you had simply forgotten how to activate. Then you place the copper on your left wrist or left forearm with direct contact with the skin, and you go to sleep. That simple, that powerful. Before speaking about the effects, I need you to understand something about the nature of intention. We live in a culture that has completely separated mind from body, the mental from the physical, the spiritual from the material. That separation is artificial and relatively recent in the history of humanity. For millennia, every culture on the planet understood that reality is a continuum, that there is no real border between what you think and what occurs in your energetic field, between what you visualize and what your nervous system experiences as real. A modern neuroscience is rediscovering this in ways that would have seemed radical barely 30 years ago. Studies on placebo have demonstrated that expectation modifies the real biochemistry of the body. Studies on meditation have demonstrated that sustained attention physically changes brain structure. Studies on collective intention have demonstrated measurable effects on physical systems that go beyond what statistics can explain by chance. What this means is that when you perform the activation ritual with copper, you are not performing an empty symbolic act. You are performing a real programming act on your own electromagnetic field. Intention is the code. Copper is the transmitter. Your field is the system that receives and executes the instruction. And when that instruction is clear, when it is charged with genuine conviction and not doubtful hope, the effects are real, measurable in how you feel, in how you think, in how you interact with the environment. You do not need to believe in archons for this to work. You need to believe in your own capacity to modify your internal state. That is enough to begin. The first days may bring something that I want you to know in advance so that it doesn't scare you. Very vivid dreams, intense dreams, sometimes disturbing, sometimes extraordinarily clear. This is normal. It is the direct consequence of your energetic field beginning to process and release what it had accumulated for a long time. When the field stabilizes, dreams return to their usual pattern, but many report that this usual pattern is already different, more rested, cleaner, more oriented. Some also notice something in their relationships during the first weeks, and this may be the most difficult thing to manage. When your field stops operating at low frequencies, when you stop emitting the signal of fear and exhaustion that attracted certain types of interactions, some relationships begin to tense without apparent reason. People you had known for years, with whom you felt comfortable in your discomfort, begin to drift away. Or suddenly conflicts appear where there were none before. That is not a failure of the process. That is the process working. You are changing frequency, and some things that were tuned to your previous frequency cannot follow you to the new one. Let them go. Not with resentment, not with judgment. Simply let them go. Because what comes after that purification is something very few people experience in their lives. The genuine feeling that your energy is yours, that your thoughts are yours, that your field is sovereign, that you are no longer a resource for anything or anyone. There is something else I want you to consider before reaching the end of this video, and that is the collective dimension of all this. Archons do not operate only on isolated individuals, they operate on entire populations. Gnostic texts described complete systems of collective control, structures that kept human groups trapped in cycles of fear, conflict, and submission. When you look at the world and ask yourself how it is possible that we keep repeating the same mistakes as a species, for generation after generation, war after war, crisis after crisis, part of the answer lies in that background operation that no one names, because no one has the language to name it. But what those texts also say, and what I deeply believe, is that this changes when there are enough individuals who break the cycle, who step out of the pattern, who stop being sources of food to become sovereign fields. It does not need to be the majority. It has never needed to be the majority, for deep changes are always initiated by minorities that operate from a different frequency. And every person who activates their field, who learns to be invisible to that which drains them, who recovers sovereignty over their own energy, is one more node in a network that is being built in silence. A network of clean fields. A network of people who think with clarity, who feel with depth, who act from freedom and not from fear. And here I want to ask you something. If what you have heard today resonated with you, if something inside you recognized these words, even though you had never heard them before, do not keep it to yourself. Subscribe to this channel. Activate the notification bell so you do not miss anything that is coming. Share this video with someone you believe needs it, with someone who also feels that inexplicable fatigue, that anxiety without origin, that sensation that something does not fit. And in the comments, write the word free. Just that. Free. Because I am going to read every comment. And to everyone who writes that word, I will respond personally with additional information that I cannot give in a public video. Information about how to deepen the process, about what type of copper is most effective, about how to strengthen the ritual in moments of special vulnerability, and about how to begin recognizing in your daily life which situations, which people, and which mental patterns are draining you the most right now. Because that knowledge, that specific map of your own field, is what marks the difference between someone who performs the process and someone who truly integrates it. If you write "free" in the comments today, you will receive that. It is my commitment. And I want you to know that every person who shares this video is not only spreading information. They are adding one more node to that network I spoke about. They are contributing so that more people recover what was always theirs. Now let me leave you with this before you close the video. Copper is not the final solution. It is a tool. And like every tool, its power depends on who uses it and with what consciousness they use it. What we have spoken about today is not a spiritual shortcut or a magical formula that replaces inner work. It is support, an amplifier, a way to gain ground while you do the deeper work, which is getting to know yourself with brutal honesty. Because Archons cannot feed on someone who is no longer afraid of their own shadow. And that is the most complete protection that exists. Not the invisibility that copper provides, but the transparency that self-knowledge provides. When you know every corner of what you are, when you have looked directly at every fear, every wound, every pattern that has limited you, and you have integrated them instead of suppressing them, there is nothing they can use against you. You no longer emit signals of fear because you have learned to transform fear into information. You no longer emit signals of shame because you have learned to transform shame into understanding. You are no longer a source of food. You are a free field. And a free field is not only someone who protects themselves, it is someone who, with their mere presence, elevates the frequency of everything around them. That is what is at stake. Not only your well-being, not only your energy, but the quality of reality you build around yourself with every thought, with every emotion, with every decision you make from freedom instead of fear. Copper is the first step. You are the second. And the second is the one that changes everything.